All good. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I didn't know whether it would be appropriate to actually do a podcast with a nutritionist in a pub.
It's always appropriate.
It's always appropriate.
Always
I think the first time we properly met was in a pub.
Yeah.
And now we're meeting again
and
doing this.
I get that weird one. It happens loads, especially when I'm out with mates and you order a pint. It's like,
should you be doing that?
Should you be drinking that? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's my philosophy is include everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the issue at the moment, I think, with the fitness industry. People that are on the outside trying to start their fitness journey, it seems like so much of a big deal. It's almost like a life-changing event. It doesn't have to be a life-changing event, does it? Really? I mean, it's creating habits slowly over time.
Yeah.
I had this conversation I was at a networking thing yesterday. I had this conversation with like 5 different people that were all talking to me about wanting to start fitness journey or not knowing how to. And I was like, you don't have to go full on all the way. Yeah. And it's also having the knowledge that at the start is when it's the hardest.
Yeah.
Like, it's never like when you're starting, if you're feeling a little bit, if you've just started your health and fitness journey and you're right at the start and you're like, bloody hell, this is hard. I'm struggling with like different foods. I'm struggling with the motivation to get and do activity. Like, it's good to have that knowledge that it's never going to be this hard again. This is the hardest it's ever going to be.
Yeah. It's a weird one. I mean, there's different philosophies. So there's like a few people I follow. It's like, a diet phase shouldn't look like what you're going to do to sustain it afterwards, because you're not going to be dieting forever. But the way I kind of look at it is that what you want to do is develop the habits while you're doing it, and then you're going to maintain about 90% of those to maintain your results afterwards. Because what you're looking for, I don't do just within the nutrition side of things. I definitely don't just do fat loss, and it's not all about losing the weight, getting down to a goal weight. It's about the whole thing. So you want, do you want to feel better? Do you want less bloating? Do you want to have the energy to do stuff? And if that's the case, that's what you want forever. It's not just what you want to do while you're losing weight. It's what you want to do for the rest of your life. And that's why I've started to work more and more with clients who are sort of 35, 40, 50 plus, because what they're thinking about isn't the same as your 20-year-old who's thinking about the next holiday.
Yeah.
For them, short, sharp weight loss phase.
Go on holiday, go to Ibiza for a week.
Yeah.
And then, amazing.
That's fine. But I think as you get older, you start looking at things like, I've got to set a good example for the kids. It's got to fit in around work, family life, social life. Everything's kind of got to fit in. And this is why people find it hard, because they think they've got to give all of that up to achieve this goal. Whereas actually, if you just say, well, no, let's start with the basics. And this is how I work with people. Let's just track your food, whether that's with an app, whether it's writing your food down, whether it's taking pictures just so you've got a record of it. Let's just see where you're at. I can get an image of where you're at. Let's see what's happening with your weight, with your measurements for 2 or 3 weeks. Then we tweak.
Yeah.
And then it's like, right, okay, so let's swap your 20% mince, 20% fat mince for 5. Let's take, instead of full fat cheddar, we're going to stick in your 30% reduced fat, or your full sugar Coke, Diet Coke. And it is as simple. People are like, that's obvious. It's only obvious.
Yeah, it's only obvious
if you know it, and if somebody kind of points it out to you, because I eat all sorts of food. I eat loads. Tonight I've got both my boys staying with me, and I've said to them, right, what do you want to eat? And they want to have pasta and meatballs. It's one of the family favourites. So we're going to have pasta and meatballs, and it's just reduced fat mince meatballs, a moderate portion of pasta. We're going to make the sauce ourselves so we know what's in there. Have a salad on the side. We'll make our own we have the garlic bread on the side, but I go and get some. I make my own sort of dough so I can control what's in there. And it's learning how you can fit all of that in to your normal life, and have what you normally eat just in moderation, and don't overthink it. Because like you say, you've got in the fitness industry at the moment, you've got the likes of, oh, there's all sorts. You've got the carnivore crowd, you've got the clean eating crowd, you know, don't have processed foods. If you listen to all of that, your plate would be empty because you wouldn't be able to eat anything.
Yeah. And if you do follow a certain trend, and then you know, we all know what social media is like. It'll come up and slap you in the face with a different trend.
Yeah.
The algorithm, it's got a way of doing that.
Yeah.
So you'll go from clean eating and go like, well, it's been 2 weeks and I don't see the gains that I was expecting to see, or I've not seen the weight loss that I'm expecting to see.
Yeah, they promise.
So I'm going to go on carnivore now. And it's like, what are you doing? You can't just go from one to another. One, it's really quite bad for you.
Yeah.
And two, how are you ever supposed to find any sort of like end result if you're always chopping and changing and none of it is balanced?
Impatience.
None of it is balanced.
I think some of the things that people struggle with most is delayed gratitude, and understanding that you've got to, you know, 2 weeks is not going to be long enough to see any real difference, and you've got to do something for 2 or 3 months at least before you start to see something significant. You'll notice all sorts of little things, like you'll notice that you might notice that your energy levels are up. You might notice a little bit of a drop in weight, maybe a drop in measurements if that's your goal, or you might notice that you just feel better. But you've got to give these things time. Like I say, I would say at least sort of eight weeks, if not 12 plus, and then keep it going. The question I get asked a lot is, how long do you give this? And my stock answer is 12 months. No matter what, it's 12 months. I think I said that to you the last time we met.
Yeah.
You know, it's 12 months because, yes, you'll notice differences before then. And you might even, you know, if you've only got, say, a stone to lose, you might even reach your goal before then. But it's going to take 12 months for you to actually embed those routines, embed those habits so that you can then keep it going.
It's all building the habit. I mean, from my point of view, the whole 12-week fitness challenge,
12-week shred, summer shreds.
It's absolute bollocks because it takes 3 months really to build a habit, properly build it into your system.
Yeah.
Right? So at the start, for those first 3 months, 12 weeks, whatever, you're fighting two things. You're fighting the change that you've had to implement, which is normally quite a drastic change because 12 weeks isn't a long time, really.
No.
And so you're fighting that challenge of having everything switched upside down. You're completely changing what you're eating. You're probably having to do a lot more activity than you used to, unless you were a gym goer before. And also, you're trying to implement these things as habits and trying to put them into your day-to-day life. It's really difficult. Whereas if you were just to extend that to, like you said, say, listen, it's going to take, this is a year.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're going to Ibiza in August and you're coming to me in June, expecting these results, then I'm afraid it's just not going to happen. We can get you to a certain point, but it's going to be something like you're going to have to really get those calories down. It may not be the healthiest way of doing it, and also on top of that, it's not sustainable.
The other way of looking at it as well is if you. So I had a client recently come to me who said, right, I'm going on holiday in 8 weeks' time, and I want to drop X amount of weight. Do you think it's and she's a current client, and we've been doing all of it. We've built the habits and things. She's like, do you think it's feasible that I can drop this amount of weight in? I think she wants to drop about 5 kilos in 8 weeks. I said, yeah, perfectly manageable. And the reason that it's manageable for her, she's got those underlying habits, and then all we then need to do is kind of tweak it. She started with me. She started with me last year, and she asked the same question. And at that time, it's like, no, I don't think you're going to manage it. But that's not to say you shouldn't try. And the way I kind of explained it to her is that, you know, rather than just focusing on I've got to get down to this weight by the time I go to holiday. So because the closer you get, if it looks like you're not going to reach it, you'll hit the sod it button and you'll just give up. Whereas actually, if you just say, my goal is trying to feel the best I can, trying to look the best I can, you'll keep going because there's no kind of fixed goal there. It's just, right, I'm going to work on how I feel. You work up to the holiday and then you keep doing that through the holiday and afterwards, and it's sustainable. Whereas actually, if you think, right, I've just got to hit 62 kilograms weight, and then you get to the holiday and you're 64 still, you'll feel crap on holiday.
Not hit your goal.
Over
you're a failure.
Yeah, you'll feel like a failure. You'll go on holiday, you'll overindulge because you think, well, what's the point? And then you come back and it's like you're starting from scratch, or you'll just give up completely. Whereas we changed it. The biggest thing we did was work on changing the mindset around it and just focusing on small changes that were going to move her towards a goal. And then she continued afterwards. And then this year, it's like, right, because we did a bulking phase, she goes, right, I'm going on holiday in 8 weeks. Do you think I can lose that 5 kilos? I said, yeah, because you've got those habits there, and it's just a few tweaks, things will drop. And it's 2 weeks away, and she's already there where she wants to be.
Yeah.
And now we're just like, right,
maintaining it.
Let's see what we can, maintain it, feel good, and it's completely different. But it's that 12 months. It's that 12-month kind of, give it 12 months, see if you can build those habits up. It's
interesting.
Key.
It is key. Interesting. There's two very obvious things that I want to talk to you about that are on opposite sides of the spectrum. One of them is nutrition with children, and the other one we've already slightly put on is nutrition for people that are, I'm not going to say old people, because how do you define old people? But people that are more looking at nutrition and activity and health, wellness from a longevity point of view.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with the longevity point of view, because we've already touched on it slightly. Is it different than, would you treat a client differently that was looking to go in and want to do, like, looking at their nutrition and their health from a longevity point of view, rather than looking at somebody who's going to IB for in 2 weeks and just wants to smash it up and just wants to get shredded? Obviously, you would do from a point of view as like how you're going to implement it.
Yeah.
But how would it be different, and what would you do with somebody who was looking for that longevity?
I mean, if you was taking it from the point of view who's just looking for, right, I want to get shredded for the holiday, then that's not a sustainable. You give them something that's short and sharp.
Okay.
That's not sustainable.
Is it okay to do that?
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. And so I've done it before in the past where I wanted to. There's a rapid fat loss protocol, and it's I think the technical term is protein sparing modified fast, PSMF, which is just a really, really high protein.
Just eating chicken.
Yeah, it's really, really high protein, very low carb, low fat, but you don't do it for long. It's like a sort of 7 to 14 days, then you have a diet break, because you're eating so low fat that you're not going to get all the essential fats.
Almost fight prep.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing. Yeah, and it's so you can do that. It's hard, but it's really effective, and you can lose fat rapidly and maintain muscle mass.
Yeah.
So that's not something that you would do for somebody who is, look, I just want to feel better. And with that one, again, you start by looking at where you're at. You've got to see where the ground lies. And once you've got an idea of that, then you can start to kind of say, right, okay, let's have a look and see what you're eating. So I would always say protein's got to be key. Calories are the most important for whatever goal, whether it's weight loss, maintenance, or weight gain. Calories are key, because that's going to be determining the overall outcome. Deficit for fat loss, maintenance, calories in equal to calories out. When you're maintaining, obviously a calorie surplus going up. Then it's protein, and you've got to eat protein, again, according to your goals. But as you get older, we need more protein. We just don't absorb it or we certainly don't respond to it in the same ways as we get older. And you just said you don't want to use the word old, but you hit 30 and you can lose, if you're not careful, you can lose anywhere between 3 and 8% of your muscle mass per decade if you're not active and eating the right things.
Put that together with a loss in testosterone per decade as well, which goes down. I can't remember the actual figures, but it's quite astonishing.
Yeah.
Isn't it? After 30,
yeah,
or I think it's even after 25, you lose like 5% testosterone every decade or something.
And for women, it's as soon as they hit perimenopause, they can lose 1 to 2% of their muscle mass per year if they're not sort of watching the nutrition and actually being active and resistance training. So protein's key, and you need to make sure you're eating enough of that. And then you've got to look at kind of the types of fats. So I work a lot with clients who have come to me with perhaps raised cholesterol levels.
Yeah.
So we need to look at the types of fats that they're eating, and also types of fiber to try and reduce that down. So it's a process though, but you're not going to go, right, here's a diet plan, this will sort you out, because again, it's that idea of too much at once.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of start building it up. Let's get the basis. Let's see how many calories you're eating. Is that appropriate for you? Let's address that first. We'll bring proteins in there, because if they need to be in a deficit, that is going to help them achieve that. We'll then look at your fiber and your fruit and veg. Again, that will help keep you feeling full and help you manage your calorie intake. And then we'll start tweaking things like types of fiber, types of fat, all of that sort of thing as well.
Awesome. How would you, as a nutritionist, combat the bliss point?
Bliss point.
Well, if anybody doesn't know what the bliss point is everything that tastes fucking awesome, right? And it's how companies like Coca-Cola and Mars and Cadbury's, it's how they make the food num. That's the only way I can describe it. Yeah, proper. Not like it, you would rather eat that Cadbury's dairy milk than eat that apple, because they found the bliss point. Any more sugar, it's too sugary, it's too sweet. Any less, it's not quite sugar enough.
It's the hyper palatable foods.
Hyper palatable foods.
Yeah. So it's I wouldn't necessarily cut them out unless you've got trigger food, and there are ways that you can do that. But I wouldn't necessarily go, right, you can't have it.
So sorry, just to interject. Sorry. Trigger foods would be things that, like, under stress, like you'd use like a trigger food as like a stress management tool.
Yeah. So let's say you're somebody who's if you're an emotional eater,
okay,
and you've got that in the house, and you're automatically going to reach for it because you're going to get that dopamine hit.
Yeah,
that's your trigger food. So if you've got foods like that, then there are other strategies to try and help manage those. Things like, just don't buy them in. It's not to say you can't have them, but don't have them readily available.
So if I want that, I'm gonna have to go out. I'm gonna have to get in my car.
Yeah.
Go to the shop, buy it, come back, and then feel like a bit of a, like, oh God, what am I doing here? I feel like a crack addict going to see my dealer.
Yeah, it's that idea of, if you put barriers in the way, it's just stopping you enough where you can go, do I really need to do this? And then you can start implementing other strategies. But if it's food that's just really tasty and you enjoy it, there's no point trying to completely cut it out, because you're going to want it. It's like if I said to you, right, don't think about elephants.
Big trunk.
And what you're thinking about is an elephant.
Yeah.
If you say don't think about, let's say your bliss food is chocolate, dairy milk.
It is indeed.
It's like Cadbury's Easter egg chocolate. There's something about that chocolate and Easter egg.
It's different.
It's just different. It's like crack.
Yeah.
You sort of say, right, you're not thinking about it, you're not having it, you're going to want it even more.
Absolutely.
So allow yourself that. But then some of the things, so chocolate's mine. I will have chocolate, but I'll then pair it with stuff that's probably higher volume, better for you. So I might have, like, say, an apple, slice up an apple, have a bit of chocolate on the side.
Okay.
Or I might get some Greek yogurt with some fruit in and grate the chocolate over the top. So you're including it in there, but you're moderating the portion, and you don't feel like you're going to miss out.
So you're hoping to get that satiety from the other foods that you're pairing it with.
So you get the hit of the taste and the flavour that you're wanting, but you are including it in your diet. So yeah, my favourite at the moment is just a big bowl of Greek yogurt, loads of mixed fruit, bit of meringue over the top, and then grated chocolate.
Nice. Sounds good.
Spot on.
That sounds good. So from a point of view, so those of you people that don't know, you used to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. Secondary school.
From my sins. Yeah.
School. When you obviously, I think things have changed even more so probably since you stopped teaching, but things around nutrition when at school, what was the education like on nutrition?
Shocking.
Was it?
Yeah. Well, I used to, because I was a science teacher, so I used to teach it, and it's well, I say shocking. It's the standard kind of health advice. So you've got the Eat Well plate, and it's based around that, which is not terrible, but it's not the best. It doesn't give you enough information and advice. So obviously then you teach them about calories, but then there's bits in there like, don't eat too much fat because it makes you fat. And you actually that is in the syllabus. That used to be in the syllabus. I think it's still there from what I know. But then you also get, I mean, this is the danger with well-meaning, and they are well-meaning, and they're trying to do the best they can with limited resources and limited knowledge and education around it. But you've got, say, primary school teachers, and I know this from experience because I've had this with my nephew recently. He's come home and gone, I can't eat that because it's bad for me. You know, I can't have that package of crisps because it's bad. I can't have that chocolate because it's bad. And the teachers are trying to teach kids, like, you know, oh yeah, you don't want to be drinking too much Coke because it's got loads of sugar in it. You don't want to eat that chocolate because it's got lots of sugar in it. You don't want to eat those crisps because there's too much fat. And you start demonizing foods at an early age. Kids then start going, oh, I can't have that, it's bad. And that is the start of disordered eating behavior, disordered eating patterns, and all sorts of stuff.
There's a reason for me bringing this up, right? And the reason is, I don't pay any attention to like the emails that my daughter's school sends out, but they sent out an email to my wife a few weeks ago, and she read it out to me, and I was absolutely gobsmacked, because they sent out a letter of like foods that children can bring in for their snack and can bring in for their pack. Like, so we've noticed recently that packed lunches aren't looking healthy. You're not allowed to do. Like, so yes, they were given, you know, like a fruit instead of chocolate bars and things like that. But things like sausage rolls and stuff like, you're not allowed that. I think white bread, maybe. I can't remember, but there was a lot of food on there, which made it very limiting, and also for parents that are providing packed meals. Then I kind of looked back a little bit of reflection, and I said to Sarah, I said, well, there's sausage rolls are on the menu for cooked meals.
Yeah.
Chips, fish and chips on a Friday.
Yeah.
So you're giving, it's almost a little bit, you know, and I think school, it's a mixed message. And also when you're teaching that to kids at that age, like kids are like sponges at that age, can't have that. Like I've had it where Fleur's come to me, my daughter's come to me and said, oh, that's healthy, that's unhealthy, that's healthy. And I'm like, well, it depends.
Yeah.
You know, there's more education needed, I think.
Yeah, there's no, I mean, this is where the whole clean eating thing comes from, where you know, you can't have, and I have arguments with people in my social media comments and in DMs all the time, where, you know, they'll say the big one for me was, just as an example. So I, just before Christmas, I put a post up. It was just me recording myself making a breakfast, my healthy breakfast, that I would call a healthy breakfast. Overnight oats, so it's porridge oats, protein powder to boost the protein, Greek yogurt. I use zero fat Greek yogurt because it helps me control the calories better. Loads of fruit. I used almond milk because I can't have real milk. I am lactose intolerant, so I have to use Greek yogurt's fine for me. Whey isolate, so I get rid of all the lactose in there, and then almond milk. And the comments, I mean, that video went massive. It's like nearly 2 million views on it.
Really?
Yeah. And the comments, like, I put it up and thought nothing of it because it had something like 3,000 views originally. And I was sat, it was Christmas Eve. I remember it well. It was Christmas Eve. I was sat in the pub with my eldest son and my partner, and my phone's going ping, 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 ping. She's like, what's going on here? So I put it on silent, ignore it. We get home a couple of hours later, and I've got something like hundreds of comments. I'd picked up just within the space of 2 hours, like 3,500 people following me, and there was arguments in the comments of people, oh, you can't eat oats. Oats are poison. You don't have protein powder. It's processed food. You know, Greek yogurt, ultra processed food. Why are you having Greek yogurt? And it's an almond milk was the other one as well. Almond milk, it's not real milk. Well, no, it's almonds and water. But it was like, you know, why are you promoting this food? And it was loads of people, and a lot of them were sort of big fans and followers of the likes of Eddie Abu and Paul Saladino and all of these sorts of people. And it's this demonizing of foods is just so problematic. I mean, and there are lots of influencers and lots of people in the media, and not just influencers. You've got people like Tim Spector, who, again, demonizing certain foods and creating fear around it. And you've got to wonder why, because none of what they say is backed up with evidence. No. So the only reason they can be doing this, and it's not just an opinion, it's kind of really, they kind of admit it themselves, it's just to sell stuff.
It's just that monetary value.
Yeah, you know, you got your Tim Spector's selling Zoe. You've got Eddie Abu selling his diet books and workout plans, you know, and the same with Paul Saladino selling all of his supplements and stuff around the carnivore diet. Anybody who demonizes a food and then goes, but have this instead, or buy my plan, you've got to take what they say with a pinch of salt.
Well, we'll have to have a conversation offline about what hashtags you're using to get all. But
that
also,
was just pure luck.
People don't know as well. Like, they don't know your story. They don't know you're lactose intolerant. You don't. You've not. I'm assuming you've not got it on your Instagram handle. I'm assuming you've not mentioned it in the video.
No.
But yet people are going into the comments without a full story. And this is the issue. Another issue with people getting information from social media. Yeah. They haven't got the full story. They don't know what these people. They don't know these people. They've never met these people in person.
Yeah, I mean, it's another thing. You know, that was put up there because people. I was asked a legitimate question: is what do you have for breakfast? You know, give me some, because I've gone on my own fitness journey. I lost 63 kilos from heaviest to lightest weight, and I've managed to maintain that weight loss for 8 years now. And they're like, well, how have you done it? What have you done? So I've all talked, going back to habits and routines, talked about that. But they were saying, well, what do you eat? And as part of one of my routines is I eat the same breakfast pretty much every day. Certainly Monday to Friday, overnight oats.
That's interesting.
It's quick and easy. I can grab it because I'm at the gym for 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Having my breakfast before my first 6 a.m. client, and it's something that I enjoy. I can change the flavors of with different fruits and different flavored protein powders, and it's a nice texture, and it hits all. You know, it's filling, good carbs, high protein. Got some. I add chia seeds in for healthy fats. Hits everything. And they were like, all right, could you give us a recipe? And that's all I did. I just put that up online. This is what I do. And that was it. It just triggered.
You never know what's going to go viral, dear.
No.
You never know. That's really interesting that people have such a diverse, you can put something up like that and it'll have such a diverse.
Massive response. And you got people arguing, you know, stuff like oats are for horses, not for human consumption. That was one of them. Protein powders are full of shit, effectively, is what they were saying. It's like, no, it's whey protein from milk powder.
Yep.
You've got some flavorings in there. There's some natural sweeteners in the brand that I use. Xanthan gum to make it a little bit creamier and thicker. That's about it. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like they made it in a lab. And I think people, they don't understand where whey protein actually comes from. It is a byproduct.
It's a byproduct
of cheese production.
I mean, it is a fantastic. Whoever, the first person that was like, let's sell this to bodybuilders.
Yeah, mate. You know, let's take this waste product. Let's actually, well, it's not even a waste. It's a byproduct that was just being wasted. And they're going, actually, this is a really great source of high quality protein. Let's see if we can extract the protein from that, put it in powder form. Add something that makes it taste nice, because unflavoured protein tastes like ass, let's face it. Yeah. Make it taste nice and market it. And it's the most bioavailable source of protein that we've got.
And it's cheap.
Yeah. Oh, it's the cheapest form of protein.
It's the cheapest form of protein. I say this to lots of people that I talk to, is I'm really struggling to get protein. Should I take a protein shake? I'm like, yes, but it's a supplement. It's supplementary to your diet. It's not going to replace it.
Yeah.
So you still got to eat what you're eating. It's supplementary. You're not getting enough protein in, so don't replace food with that.
No.
Add it in.
It's not going to satiate it. It will help you. So I use it by adding it in. So I add it into overnight oats. If I'm having a Greek yogurt with the fruit, like I say, I'll stick a scoop of protein powder in there. I don't tend to have protein shakes because they don't fill me. And I'd rather have, I'd rather have chicken breast, I'd rather have salmon fillet, steak, whatever, with the veg, and that's going to keep me satisfied and full. Protein shakes, some people it works. I mean, I do use I use a lot of the clear whey ones, again, because it's whey isolate and it's not got the lactose in. But I'll have that in with water and I'll sip that. It's another way of,
when you're with the clients.
Yeah, and it's another way of getting my water into, because I am crap at getting water in.
What is that? What's the deal with that? I know that water shouldn't really be on a podcast with a nutritionist. We shouldn't be talking about how we can't drink water, how we struggle with water. But it is. And
it's a flavour thing. I don't like the flavour. I mean, I know water's flavourless.
Is it? I
think that's the point.
It depends, right, on the water here, where I live, does not taste good. The water where other family members live
tastes different.
Tastes different
Yeah.
to me. It doesn't taste it. I can drink it. Whereas
Yeah.
the water here is really tastes really chemically, and
Yeah.
to the point now where I only drink bottled water, and it's pricey. But I think that comes from living in another country for a good many years,
Yeah.
and then coming back here and having the tap water and be like, ugh, that doesn't taste good at all.
Yeah, and I mean, some people just don't like it because it doesn't taste, and I think part of that is down to the fact that we've got so much very palatable food available to us, and I do think, you know, when you're just drinking water after drinking, say, Coke or juice or anything like that, you're kind of turned off and switched off it. But it doesn't matter what you drink, as long as you are getting your fluids in there to a certain degree. It doesn't matter what you drink. Obviously, drinking 2 or 3 litres of that a day is not going to do any good. But you know, if you need to add a little bit of squashing, reduced sugar squashing to get the fluids in,
it's almost better the devil you know.
Yeah,
have the few calories.
And in terms of hydration, pure water itself is not the most hydrating fluid. So, you know, if you're trying to increase your hydration levels, there's milk is the most hydrating substance.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got to think that hydration, with needing electrolytes in there as well, or different vitamins and minerals. So milk is probably the most hydrating substance. Then you've got your fruit juices are more hydrating as well. Yeah. And then and this is the interesting one. So I say this to clients, like, yeah, but I drink a lot of coffee. Coffee will hydrate you, as long as it's not sort of double espresso shots all the time. But the volume of water in there is going to overcome any of the slight diuretic effects that you're going to get from the caffeine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Diet Coke is slightly more hydrating than water.
So I love Coke. For me, ideal. I mean, yeah, chocolate. I'm the same as you. Chocolate is my. We were talking then. I was thinking the other week I bought some dairy milk, a bar of dairy milk, and got home, left it in the car because I thought if this is in the fridge, I'm eating this. I don't even know why I bought it. I'm going to leave it in the car so that it's going to take me to actually open the door, unlock the car, get in the car, get it, think, oh, come on, Nick. Do you really need it? You know?
Yeah.
And I might change my mind. I left it in the car, I didn't eat it. Now, going back to, completely forgot what we were talking about before I went off and I looked off. Hydration, yeah. Going back to like hydration and that, it's, for me, drink like Diet Coke Zero.
Yeah.
It's got that sweetness.
Yeah.
But also, I know that it's got the caffeine.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm really struggling to find a balance in caffeine, and it hydrates you pretty well as well.
Yeah, it's marginally better. So things like Coke and Coke Zero, marginally more hydrating because they've got other things in there.
Are we comparing this with mineral water or tap water?
Just standard water. Just water. Yeah. All water's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So
when we're talking like normal water, so you can get normal water and then mineral water. Now
the differences are very marginal.
So maybe it's a placebo, right? Because I've done a little experiment on myself, and I've drank a shitload of normal water, just water, no minerals, and it's gone right through me really fast. And then I drank loads of mineral water on a separate day, and it's taken a lot longer to go through my system because it obviously stays. The water will retain.
You might have a little bit more
minerals
salt
out.
And things. Yeah. Well, the thing is, you might have a little bit more salt in there, and things like, so your salts like potassium and sodium, they're going to make you hold on to the water a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because what you need to understand is that your body's trying to maintain something called homeostasis. Okay, so that's that balance, that level. And if you intake sodium, it's trying to maintain the concentrations of sodium, and the way it adjusts that is by retaining water or getting rid of it. So if your sodium levels are quite high, it's going to retain the water so that you dilute the sodium down. If your sodium levels are lower, then you won't retain the water. And this is something that you'll say to clients, won't you? You've had a sudden spike in weight. What did you eat yesterday?
Yep.
Oh, I had a Chinese takeaway with lots of monosodium glutamate, lots of sodium in there. You'll have retained water, or you had some salty, ready salted crisps. That's got a lot of salt in there. you'll have retained water, so your weight will spike, and that's what happens. So mineral water will have some of those minerals in there, which will cause your body to retain that water a little bit. It's something that I say to, it's a little tip for people who wake up in the middle of the night constantly for a wee. A little bit of salt on your last meal just helps retain the water, and you'll go to the toilet a little bit less.
I'm not quite at that stage yet. Give it a couple of years. I
was going to say, it'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, I think going back to longevity is something that I'm really interested in at the moment, because we're seeing people now that are living a lot longer, but they're not particularly living better. They're not living as well. They're living longer, but the quality of life doesn't seem to be great. And I think you look at the NHS stats, you look at like what's taking the most money out of the NHS. You've got heart disease, type 2 diabetes. A lot of people at the moment, of a certain age now are suffering with like osteoporosis and things like that, like really like quite bad arthritis. And it's all stuff that I'm thinking, if you could just do, even now, just do some resistance training and just change your diet style. I mean, the thing is with type 2 diabetes is that everybody thinks diabetes, I don't know, you kind of, oh, okay, diabetes means that I need to just give myself a little prick and test my blood sugar, and I might have to have a Mars bar, I might have to eat this, or I might have to inject myself with some insulin. It's like, oh, it's not too bad, I'm just going to, and it's like, well, no, like I know from first-hand accounts that when I was a medic and when I was on the wards, that people with diabetes lose limbs. And it's not nice.
No.
And it's finding a way now for me, of educating and finding a way to get people to realise that just little tweaks, just slight tweaks in the nutrition, slight tweaks in their activity levels throughout the day. It doesn't mean you've got to become the CrossFit champion of the world.
No.
It doesn't mean you've got to go and do a bodybuilding competition. It doesn't mean you've got to go run go and do a triathlon or run a marathon. You literally just have to get your activity up a little bit, maybe go to the gym a couple of times a week, lift a few weights, and follow a simple program, and eat just be more aware of what you're eating to improve that.
I think the biggest issue we've got is that around 2/3 of the population and in the UK are either overweight or obese.
Okay.
And obesity is probably your leading cause for all of those things that you mentioned. So your type 2 diabetes, heart disease, strokes, cancer.
Absolutely.
That is probably one of the biggest underlying reasons for it. And you've got to kind of look back at why are we obese? And it isn't just, people blame like, oh, it's processed foods. It's not processed foods. It's not just processed foods. It is a lack of activity. You look at what most people are doing now for jobs, and it's desk-based. We don't walk anywhere anymore. We drive. This was a conversation I had with my other half the other week, in that we needed to go and get something we've got a local shop. It's a 5-minute walk up the road, and I was cooking tea, we'd run out of something, and it's like, oh, I need to go and get this. I'll just nip to the shop, and then off in the car. And I didn't have a second thought about it. It's just, oh, go and get it in the car. And actually, if you look back 30, 40 years ago, you go and walk to the shop. You wouldn't jump in the car. And the activity levels, because of that, are a lot lower. I think I've read somewhere that the average daily steps of the average person in the UK is less than 3,000 steps a day, which is shocking.
Pretty diabolical.
Yeah. And then I've got a client who she's managed to run her first 5K, was like, oh, it took me 40 minutes. And she was really hard on herself. And I said, do you know what? Running 5K puts you in the top 10% of the population.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, 90% of the population, if you went to them now and said, right, run 5K, they couldn't do it. So you're in the top 10%. And if you can bring that down to 30 minutes for a 5K, you're getting up into the top 5%. If you can do it in under sort of 25 minutes, you're in the top 1%. And she's like, oh my God. And suddenly started to realise the actual scale of what she's achieved.
Yeah.
That's one of the sort of things that we're combating, and we just need to move more. But then if we look at the nutrition side, because of hyperpalatability, and the availability of protein.
I was about to say the
availability,
abundance of food.
We're not in we're in what you would call an obesogenic environment.
So, I like that. I like that word. I don't like it because it's not good, but it is it's a good way.
It's an obesogenic environment. We've got food readily available. You know, you pick this up, you've not got food in. Uber Eats, Just Eats, whatever. Press of a button, the food's there. Within 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you've got food. You don't have to cook it. So what do you do? You know, if you were preparing your own food, you'd have to be up chopping the food and cooking, more activity. Now it removes that. You know, you press a button, you sat watching a film for 20, 30 minutes while the food's delivered, and then you sat there eating it, and it's, you know, you don't know how it's prepared, depending on where you get it from. It's probably high fat meat as well, because that's cheaper. You know, it's going to be processed, some of the stuff in there as well. It might even be ping food that's just chucked in the microwave before it's put in the tin and then chucked out to you. So you don't know. And because of that combination of readily available and high calorie food, and also portion size, because people want to give you value for money, so you go back. So the portions are way too big. I mean, how many times as well when you've ordered something, you go, right, well, I'll have the curry, I'll have the rice, well, I'll have a portion of chips as well, and an naan bread, and some poppadoms, and a couple of samosas.
Every time when we lived in Gibraltar, we go over the border into Spain and get tapas, I'll be like, my Spanish wasn't very good. I'd order loads. I'll be like, love that, and literally the way I'd be like, enough.
Yeah.
Calm down. You know, but you want that. You're thinking, I'm hungry, especially when you're hungry.
Yeah.
And because we're used to having that
abundance.
That
looks good.
Yeah, that abundance of tasty food. We just want it all the time. Like, you go back and look at pictures and videos from the 70s. I think it was on another podcast, but it was like a picture of like people on the beach.
Yeah.
And there was no obese people. There was no overweight people.
I think there were, but I get your point. There was the prevalence wasn't as high. It wasn't as high. You know, we have had that. There's always been obese people, because the other thing we've got to understand is as well that there are going to be people who are genetically predisposed to having a bigger appetite, to having a lower metabolic rate. I mean, there are conditions like PCOS, underactive thyroids. You get into menopause and your metabolism does lower very slightly. Not necessarily the fact that you burn fewer calories naturally, just other impacts on there. You know, and your metabolism does drop once you hit into your 60s. It does start dropping a little bit as well.
Because you do get people, right? And I'm thinking back to primary school, high school, with people that have you know, they're always like the bigger people in school. And it's like, well, how? And you get people that go on a weight loss journey, and they go into a calorie deficit, and they really struggle to lose that weight. Now, what is, putting you on the spot here, what is the reason for that? Is it the reason that you just said, that they have different things like that, or is that getting a little bit too? Is that getting a bit too deep?
I've come across people who do struggle in losing weight for whatever reason, and there are some people who they've got lower metabolisms, you know, for all of those reasons. You know, we talked about PCOS and things, but then you've also got you've got to look at the habit, and this is kind of no insult to people, but people lie. I mean, if we think about your clients as well, they underreport. And it's not intentional sometimes. But they underreport on what they're eating, or they're not aware. And you've got to unpick. And I think people who really struggle are probably less aware of what they're doing than people who don't.
Okay. From a like being brought up childhood, is it totally environmental?
No, not totally. I think you do have a genetic component, and there are going to be people who are more prone to weight gain, who naturally have bigger appetites, and you've got people who, for whatever reason, are going to be slightly lower metabolic rates. So yeah, there's lots of factors, but then you've also got your support network around you. You've got there was a study I was reading. If you come from a family that is overweight, you are more likely to be overweight because of the environment you're in and the habits that they.
Not at all.
No, go for it.
On.
Yeah.
I know we've got already. Can we take the t-shirt off? Yeah, we've got less than a puncher's challenge. It's going off if we get there. Is it going off at half time? Probably.
Yeah, I think.
You're not a Liverpool fan, are you?
I think. What were you saying? Sorry about the study. You were.
Yeah, it's just that if you are that people who are born into a family that are overweight are at an increased risk of having difficulties in maintaining their weight. And again, I think that is genetic. There is a genetic component there, but you've got to think about the wider
Habits.
kind of yeah.
Also, social economic.
Yeah. Oh,
as well.
Big one.
Big
Massive
one. I've found that I've been doing quite a lot of research into that with my business that I'm trying to build, and there's a big social economic feature of that, of why people haven't got access. Like, one of the things that I'm really trying to drive is accessibility. People can to be able to access. Now that's more than just like, yeah, you can open up, you can be like put a cheap gym membership in there.
Yeah.
But it means absolutely nothing if people don't know what they're doing, if they've not got any guidance.
Also, around the socio-economic stuff, you've also, and this is where the kind of the hyper ultra processed food, hyper palatable food, people are like, oh, ultra processed food is, it's bad. It isn't. Not inherently bad. If you eat a diet that is predominantly ultra processed, then there are going to be implications there, and there is research that's been done to show that there are health implications, but it's not poison. If you can eat a balanced diet, you can include some ultra processed foods in there, and not ultra processed foods are on the same. So Greek yogurt is an ultra processed food, but you wouldn't consider that to be, in inverted commas, bad for you.
Yeah.
But then you can go like down to your supermarket and get your lasagna ready meal, ultra processed, high fat, high salt, high in carbs. Eating that every single day, there are going to be health implications for you. But ultra processed food is cheap. And if you are a single mum with a couple of kids and you're working a job at long hours, and you want, you're running a house on one wage, and you've got very little time, you are going to go and get something
that's
cheap, quick to make. It's going to provide the calories for your kids. Absolutely. Because remember, I said calories are the key thing. So you need to make sure they're eating enough. The last thing and you get other people going, oh yeah, but you can eat healthily on a budget. You can. You can do it if you plan ahead. But if you imagine that mum who's mental capacity,
she's working full time, she's got a lot going on, and it's everything, isn't it? It for me, it's more of an open-ended question of how do we actually improve that? Because it's not just, again, we're talking about it from a social economic situation, but it's not just that.
No,
it's everything.
I mean, the socio-economic stuff that's a big one, and that one you've got to. We can't do that as nutritionists.
No, exactly.
That's something where you've got to.
The only thing we could do is make our things like really cheap.
It's got to be,
but then it's hyper or really accessible.
Yeah,
but how do you do
that? It's difficult then, because it's then. Oh, this is where you start getting to the conversation of, if it's cheap, are people going to value it?
Yes, exactly. This is where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, it's tough. It is tough.
And we've had that conversation before, and about you want people. It's almost a case of like, if you're willing to pay for it, then you're more likely to actually utilize it.
Yeah.
But the same point, if you can't afford it, but you need that information, you need that coaching.
It's got to be. I think the key thing's got to be education, and education has got to start right at the beginning. It's got to start at the beginning, and you need to have good nutrition education from nutrition professionals, or nutritional professionals that, and not the likes of, and I've got nothing against him, but not the likes of Joe Wicks, or Jamie Oliver. You know, I've got nothing against those guys, and I think what they've done has been really, really good to try and get people either eating better or moving more. But you need people who are qualified, who can go in and give advice, either produce a curriculum or maybe even produce some resources that teachers can use that can then inform the kids. And you've got to teach them from a very early age. And you've got to remove demonization of food. You have to take that out.
Yeah.
You know, no food is bad, but you've got to say, well, look, you can eat all of this, but eat more of this. Eat more of your fruit, your veg, whole grains, lean proteins, healthy fats. Eat more of that. Have some, and but you will get people saying, oh yeah, but we do that with the Eat Well plate. Not very well.
What's the protein? What's the recommended protein intake on the Eat Well plate? It's like 20%.
It's not even that. I think it's like, when you look at it, it's about 15%.
Yeah.
You know, and actually when you look at and you've even got some health professionals who are saying like high protein diets, and high protein is anything where you're eating sort of more than 1.2 grams per kilo would be considered a high protein diet, which actually is optimal health kind of levels. Now you've got a lot of health professionals going, oh, high protein diets are bad for you. You know, they can cause issues with your kidneys. There's kidney stones and stuff like that. And it's like, no, just no. You know, they've done research where they've given people 3 to 4 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein for a prolonged period of time with no adverse effects. I mean, obviously they haven't got kidney issues, but you know.
I mean, the offset of somebody who hasn't got kidney issues getting kidney stones opposed to getting diabetes.
Yeah,
you know,
and actually,
sometimes you've got to look at that offset. If you've got to the point where you're, you know,
well, the risk of kidney stones is, and there's other reasons for that, and it just doesn't happen. There is no risk, and like you say, you know, then there's the risk benefit kind of analysis as well. So it's like, okay, so let's say there was an increased risk of kidney stones that's about that big, whereas actually if you don't eat enough protein and your weight goes up and your risk of type 2 diabetes like that,
massively, it's worth the risk, or it's the offset, isn't it?
It's the same with anything as well. You know, it's kind of, I think that's the same with any form of kind of change to nutrition or change within your lifestyle. Yeah, it is a risk benefit.
Yeah.
But absolutely. There's so much misinformation, and we need to try and combat that at an early age. You need to, I think, coach parents as well. And then I think there's a responsibility on people who go on social media and start spouting crap. They've got to be held accountable for the misinformation.
Absolutely.
And this idea of, freedom of speech, I get it. But we need to try and police. I think the fitness industry needs to try and police itself.
There needs to be almost I've said this for years. There needs to be like a registration, like or at least a covenant of coaches, where if you've got somebody who's not qualified, who's spouting information, now anybody, you get a couple of thousand followers on Instagram, people are going to listen to you. No matter who you are, if you've got a decent rig on you, people are going to listen to you.
Yeah.
And it's
well, that's the other thing that annoys me, is that, you know, you need to have a 6-pack before people take you seriously. And I mean, you and I both know how hard it is to get
and maintain a 6-pack.
It's just impossible to maintain. You get it, and then it's about 2 weeks later you've had you've started eating normally again. It's gone.
Yeah, or you've had something with some salt in.
Yeah, and it's just completely disappeared. But people who maintain, and I think we said this when we last met up, you know, you get people who get to that stage of a 6-pack, have it for 2 weeks, a month, get thousands of photos, and then drip feed them out across them. And people don't realise that.
You look at some influencers, I'm like, no, how long have you been in Cyprus for?
Yeah,
because you've been posting about it for 4 months. You know, and it's just the same.
And it's just, you know, and the people who do, especially with women who are there very, very lean, the majority of them, I would expect, are suffering with all sorts of health conditions.
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, again, without going too much into something I don't really want to go into, but females are supposed to have a higher body fat percentage than males.
Yeah.
You know, and
just naturally are.
Yeah, naturally, yeah. And so it's just one of those things, I think, like you said, it's all education, right?
Yeah, and I think, like you say, having a covenant or policing, and I think actually we need to be more willing to call people out. as well. If they're giving misinformation, we need to be able to say.
This is the thing, though, with influencers and with people that have, it's almost like a cult-like following that they have.
Yeah, tell me
so
about
if you
it.
were to try and call somebody out, the amount of backlash you're going to get, and for somebody like yourself or me that are, you know, our businesses, we're not influencers. I mean, you've got a lot more followers than me. You could say you're kind of like on the way to that sort of thing, right? But
yeah,
you don't want to get called out, because at the end of the day, like, you risk losing your business, or you risk your business or your credibility being damaged by some comments or whatever, and you never know who's.
No, but I do think as an industry, we need to be, certainly with our own clients, we need to sort of start pulling these things out, and I do, you know, I'll say, somebody will say, oh, well, I've seen this, right, show me who it said it, right, this, but educate them, say, look, you've got to think critically, look at what they're saying, does it make sense to you? Are they trying to sell something? Does it go, is it in line with what the majority of people are saying? Because one of the things that these people, and this is a red flag, so if they say, oh, the main, like, doctors don't want you to know this, that is a big red flag.
Why would doctors not want you to know?
You know, it's like, why would doctors not want you to know the secret that's going to cause you to maintain a healthy weight and you know, reduce your risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes? Of course they want, if it was true, they'd want you to know it. So as soon as if they say that phrase,
well, for me, anytime they're trying to sell something and they're saying something that is going against the grain or flying against the crows, then you've pretty much got to watch out. And that's something that I tell my clients, and I get a lot of the time. I've had clients in the past, and you know, I quite like it when they do it. They send me pictures of other people on Instagram, and like, I want to look like this, or can I look like this? Or how do I get this sort of body type? And I'm like, well, to be honest with you, you're not that person. That's that person. You're this person. When you lose weight and you put on muscle, you're going to look like how you do, with less body fat and more muscle.
I mean, the influencers who put their diet and training plan, you could give two people the exact same diet, the exact same training plan, and they're going to have two completely different outcomes.
One, because of the way that their body is, but also because of their social, what's going on with them in their life. Some people get to do that, some people don't.
And you know, I mean, this is something that I get a lot from clients who are just like, oh, how have they managed to do that in, you know, they look at them in that movie, how have they managed to do that in 2 months? Well, they've got a chef making all their food for them, they've got a nutritionist telling them exactly what they've got to eat, they've got a trainer that's coming down to train with them for 2 hours, 5 days a week.
Good chance they might be on gear.
Or they're gonna be injecting something or taking something that helps them. And this is the thing, and then they'll say, oh buy my training plan and look like me. No, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's one of them things, isn't it? It is just one of them things that we're obviously trying to fight the good fight. And I'm going to wrap it up there. So thanks for coming on.
Worries.
Obviously, tell people where you're at and your Instagram handle, your website and stuff, and I'll add it in at the bottom as well.
Fitter Food Lover on all socials, TikTok, Facebook and Instagram. Follow along, in loads of recipe ideas, little snippets on nutrition and stuff like that as well. And big things to come. There is a new website coming, so keep your eyes open for that one.
Awesome. You'll also have a little snippet on the PT company website as well. So
nice one.
All good.
Good.
All good. All right. Thank you.